Welcome everyone to the second talk of Hashnode podcast. And today we talk with Kyle Prinsloo. I hope I pronounce your name correctly because I'm not very good at pronouncing names. Kyle is a self-directed freelance web designer and online business consultant. Kyle has a rich background in various fields such as digital marketing, business management, and software engineering. And with that being said, he lives a life on his terms since he started being a freelancer. He has also various courses on this topic that teaches you how to become a freelancer, so it's worth checking it out. Enough talk from me because I leave Kyle speak now, and please feel free to introduce yourself. No pressure. Anything you want us to know, feel free.
Well, awesome. Thanks so much, Catalin, for allowing me to chat with you, and it's awesome to be here. And I think that's pretty much the end of the podcast. So we're done.
No, my pleasure is mine, and I want to thank you again for accepting this invitation and coming here, talking with us, sharing your knowledge, and basically giving us a bit of your busy time.
No problem at all. That's, I mean, the pleasure is all. I mean, I must be thanking you. It's very nice to chat with you again, and yes, I hope that that the listeners might learn a few things, and I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity.
For sure, for sure. So let's start with the first question, which I think is very interesting. Can you tell us what was your career path and how did you become a freelancer?
Sure. So I started in the illegal trade first. No, I'm
Illegal
just
trade?
joking. No, don't worry. I'm just joking. um, so my venture into freelancing is obviously a little bit different to others, and obviously we all have our own unique path. But for me, I was a high school dropout, so I left school in my final year due to various reasons, and I tried to create a business. Didn't work. I learned a lot from that, and then I went into various different jobs. After I was 18 years old, up to around 20, everything from accounting. Surprisingly, because accounting was my worst subject. I think if people had to hear me say that, who were in my class, they would laugh. So I was in accounting for a while. I was in selling jewelry, and I was selling insurance premiums. I'm not a salesperson at all, but that's pretty much what I had to do to sort of survive in a way. And then that sort of led me into an IT job through a friend, and I was doing some random work, right? It wasn't anything fancy. It wasn't anything to do with IT. It was literally like me doing quotes for clients who request maybe some installations, or maybe CCTV installations, network installations, new laptops, things like that. And then also going on site. But I used to be the guy like holding the ladder, while other guys used to install the systems and all that. So it was interesting, but the pay was really, really, really low. It was like very little. Okay, I was grateful for it, but it was little. It was definitely nothing I could survive on, and that sort of led me on to a deeper sort of question on like what I really wanted to do, which I knew I was interested in business and all of that. And eventually, I studied digital marketing and a business management course. And what I used to do, I used to walk across the road from the IT business to the college where I used to study. It was a short-term course. I think it was about a year long, and I used to learn online and a combination of going on site. And I became friends with, or not friends, but I used to chat very friendly with the HR professor there. And he mentioned that he's got a friend who's looking for a digital marketing person. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm actually studying digital marketing. So I sent my CV. Long story short, I got the job, and I was at that company as the marketing manager for about 3.5 years. But during that time, I really learned a lot. And that was where I sort of found my interest into freelancing. I studied web development there. Hence the name why I started studying web development, which I'm sure we can get into. And before I knew it, I was earning more on the side with freelancing than I was at my full-time job. And eventually that led me to leaving. And that was about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I've been full-time freelancing ever since then. And a lot of things have happened since then, which I'm grateful for. But that's pretty much this short intro into my journey into freelancing.
That's quite amazing. It's a very interesting journey, and it's not a conventional one. You had a lot of jobs and careers. You study different things, so this is super interesting to hear and motivating. Because at least I always thought that you have to, I don't know, to maybe have a computer science degree, to code for a very long time, to work at the top companies before you can become a freelancer. So this is really encouraging and nice to hear. And since you said you did a digital marketing degree, how did that help you with freelancing?
Good question. So I would say it really helped me a lot. So maybe I can backtrack a bit and say that while I was at the company working there, I remember my wife saying to me, because we were struggling financially, she couldn't work at the time legally. She's from India, so she's an immigrant. We had to survive on one salary, and we just couldn't do it. So I was just going more and more in debt, right? So after about 2 years, my wife sort of said to me like, and I was very frustrated, right? I sort of didn't know what to do, and I knew that I could ask for an salary increase, but it's like it's negligible. It's not really going to fix things, right? And then my wife saw me and she says, okay, like, why don't you actually study web development? And I was like, what? Like, that's like a foreign language. I don't have any, I mean, it just looks weird. I'm not interested in being like a web developer, right? So actually, as I gave it more thought and actually said to her, like, that's a great idea. And I studied on Udemy, various different courses to study web development. And then that sort of led me into teaching what I knew, right? And giving some tips on, that's why I bought studywebdevelopment.com, because I was learning it and I was sort of sharing some random tips on freelancing on the side, as well as I got clients and all of that. And I realized that the web development knowledge as well as the marketing knowledge work extremely well together, because what I could do is I could offer clients a once-off service, such as web development, creating a website or redesigning the existing website. But then I could offer a marketing retainer package, right? So I could charge them $500 up to $2,000 a month for various different services that I would do. And that really worked incredibly well. So to answer your question, to bring it back to answer it, has it helped? Definitely. And that is essentially what I also try and encourage others. In fact, just before this podcast, I actually record a podcast on myself, and it's titled Retainer Work. And I'm actually talking about this topic exactly, talking about once-off work as well as marketing, combining the two, and how it actually works incredibly well so that you can avoid what I refer to as the valley incomes, because it's very easy to get a client, charge 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 or plus for a website. But what about the next month? What are you going to do? And the best way in my mind to avoid that valley income is to get a form of consistent income, and that is through retainer income, such as offering marketing services. So maybe I'm rambling or talking too much here, but in short, I do believe that it works incredibly well.
Don't worry, and I agree with you, because you can have the best services or you can be the best if nobody knows about you. So I think marketing is definitely super useful and necessary. So it's great to hear that. And maybe you can send me some pieces of content about this if you have any, and I can include it in the description of this video so people can read and maybe learn something new. So this is great. And we kept talking about your career, how you became a web freelancer and stuff like this. And this takes us to the next question. And I'd be interested to see, what would you do differently if you'd start from zero? So let's say tomorrow it's a new world, you start from zero.
Wow, you're asking great questions. Wow. Okay, so if I can answer it in two ways. and if I can answer it in terms of, do I have any regrets, right? Let me say, if I could do it differently in my existing life, in a weird way, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but I would have actually earlier. I would have wanted to be exposed to computers much earlier, and marketing much earlier, and business much earlier. I would have really enjoyed that. So that said, moving on to the future, let's say we woke up in a new world and we had to start from scratch. If it was me, I would want to do something to exactly what I'm doing now, because I'm extremely grateful for the life I'm living. My work is my hobby. I really enjoy what I do. I really enjoy working with clients. I really enjoy, sort of, you know, they've got a problem, they're not getting results, or their results are there, and now it's like, okay, what can we do to make it like that? And I enjoy that challenge. It's quite interesting, as well as helping others. It's really a blessing to, in a way, how I think of it is, I think of it like I'm helping people learn how to fish so they can catch their own fish, so that they can be independent, so that they can provide for their family, so that they can eventually also teach others in the same situation that they were in. So I'm really grateful for what I do. How would I do this starting over? That's an interesting one. Hopefully AI didn't take over everything by then, but assuming it was a similar environment to now, I would probably, I would have loved to have learned web development much sooner, and I wouldn't overcomplicate it, because I would sort of do like an 80-20 approach, and so in other words, I would learn HTML and CSS and maybe WordPress and Webflow, right? So I wouldn't waste time. I say that like that, but in terms of being a freelancer, I would want to learn how to create a website, just a website. I don't need to learn how to do advanced React and Node.js and Rails and all of this other stuff. You do, as a minimum requirement, you don't need to know that, right? I just need to know how to create a website. So I wouldn't I wouldn't say waste time, but I would rather focus more on those core skills, and then I would learn marketing, digital marketing, such as SEO, AdWords, Facebook ads, Instagram, social media, all of that type of things, and then really know it well. Okay. Then I would say the main thing that I would do differently, Catalin, is I would have to change my mindset, because if I look at like 7 years ago, no, maybe 6 years ago, when I tried to sell my services to clients, I was extremely nervous, and it really took a lot mentally to try and process how to deal with failure, and how to deal with rejection in a way. And it took me a few months to really get over that. I would want to have sort of got over that process and mindset a lot sooner, and realize that rejection and people saying no is completely normal, and there's plenty of other people out there who will say yes, So it's just about, I would say, a mind shift change. And also, if I can just add and wrap up that topic and say, like, I would want to learn the business side of freelancing a lot more, because the mindset of being a freelancer is great. I find that you need a new mindset of being a freelancer as being a business owner, because once you understand that, you value time a lot more, and you value like getting things done a lot more in a good way. So I don't know if that answers it, but that's pretty much what I can think of right now.
Nice, very thorough answers, and I enjoyed them. And I like what you said, that you teach people how to fish, because this reminds me of a famous saying that give a man a fish and feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish and feed him for life. So I really love that. Yeah, it's super nice. So I've seen that it's obvious you like freelancing and this is your life now, but I'm interested to see if you would go back to employment after years as a freelancer.
So the answer is no. I would rather go in debt, and I would rather take personal loans until I figure it out on how to get, back to where I am, let's say now. In saying that, I am open to the idea of partnering for, let's say, a few hours a day, maybe 2 or 3 hours a day with large companies companies I'm interested in to offer, certain services too. But in a way, I don't really see that as, how can I say, as employment. I more see that as outsourcing or no, not outsourcing, but freelancing in a way. But in terms of full-time employment, definitely not. Definitely not. Wow. Like my mind just can't compute that. I don't want to. I don't want to even think about that. In my mind, I want to think that I'm unemployable. So regardless of how much a business is willing to pay, I just can't mentally go back to being an employee.
Yeah, I suppose once you have a taste of this life and freedom, it's really hard to go back to employment. But yeah, I feel you. And now you said that you have you are doing freelancing for 5 years or so, if I understood correctly. And I would like to ask how much years of experience is required before starting as a freelancer. For example, can you do it straight away? I don't know, after learning web development, or should you, or it would be better to work a few years as a software engineer? This is a question I'm personally interested in, and I would like to hear answers from people like you who do this for a while.
Good question. Great question. And to that, I'm going to give a broad sort of answer, right? Because we've got a mutual friend named Danny Thompson, and look at his background, right? He started making fried chicken and selling fried chicken, and look at him now. He's like a software engineer. He was doing some freelancing work on the side. Yeah, it wasn't his full-time sort of gig, but it still counts as freelancing in a way. What I'm trying to say is that we've all got different approaches and different journeys, and some of us are more have more resources at our disposal, maybe better connections, better finances, a better job. Maybe we've got family life, we've got a lack of time. So it's a very interesting one. But if I can sort of give a rough general answer to this, I would say that I always say to people interested in freelancing that it's good to work out a blueprint or set out a goal for, let's say, the year, right? Because I do not teach people that, look, within 3 months, you're going to be earning $5,000 or $10,000 a month. Can it happen? Yes. Has it happened? Yes. But I do not teach that because I know that the reality is that some people take 6 months, some people take 2 years to be able to earn a decent side income or a good full-time income. It varies, right? So when it comes to starting, I always try and think of it this way, that what is the minimum requirements for when you have to start freelancing? And in my mind, I would say that you need to learn how to create websites. So when you know how to create websites, the tool does not matter. If you only know WordPress, that is perfectly fine. I know WordPress freelancers who create 5 figures a month, who are doing incredibly well, who do not even know how to code in JavaScript, who do not even know how to code in React and all of these other frameworks and the 13,000 other languages and all that other stuff, So what I want to get to here is you need a mindset change. I do not care about what the tech community says, that you need to learn all of these 5 different languages and all this nonsense, All you can learn is how to create a website. Once you know how to create a website using the various tools such as WordPress, Webflow, Squarespace, HTML and CSS, whatever, you are ready to start. Now you need to learn the other aspect of freelancing, which is how to get clients, how to market yourself, how to price your services, how to keep your clients, how to upsell them, and all of that, that whole approach. And that's sort of a different, I would say, angle to it. So in my mind, I always say that within 6 months, you can really, if you have to dedicate an hour to 2 hours a day, learning how to create a website, as well as freelancing practical side of, how to get clients, how to process services, and so on. I would say 6 months is really a good blueprint time, but I have had other people start from scratch and do it definitely within 3 months. So it depends on your time frame, depends on your resources, and what you can do. But that's sort of my rough, general answer to that question.
This is super interesting because I always thought you have to have like 10 years of experience and stuff like that. And I would like to emphasize on what you said. I love that you said the tool doesn't matter that much. Of course, it's important, but you don't have to know the latest technologies and 10,000 languages. And I'm speaking this in general, not as freelancing, because obviously I have no experience with freelancing, but the internet can sometimes be wild and recommend that you learn all the stuff that comes out and that you need to know it. So I really love that you mentioned that. And now I would be interested if you could tell us what are some skills, essential skills, let's say, to work as a freelancer, like for example time management skills, or I don't know.
Great question. So on a practical way to answer this, I think it also depends on where you are in your freelancing journey. So if you have a small team behind you, obviously project management skills and time management is highly important. If you are a solo freelancer and you're doing it yourself and you've only got one client, you need to approach it a bit differently versus someone who's got like 5 or 10 recurring clients, and how to manage that, how to keep existing clients and all that. But I would say, as a general answer again to this, is time management is obviously important, because once you realize that time is the real value here, once you realize that, what is the goal of freelancing, right? Is the goal that you want to work like 10 hours a day? That's fine. Some people want to do that. Some people just enjoy coding. They don't want to deal with clients. They don't want to deal with the accounting and business side. Perfectly fine. You get freelancers like that. Good for them. For me, I'm not really interested in that, and I don't really teach that. So my approach is different, right? My approach is more like to say, like, I want you to work the hours that you would like to work, so that you have freedom. So let's start with the ultimate goal of freedom, right? Freedom of time, freedom of finances. So how are you going to do that? Because when you start with a goal, there's practical side, practical things that you have to consider to get to that goal. You can't, after 2 years of freelancing, still be doing all of the work. That defeats the end goal. You can't, after 2 years of freelancing, still be struggling with your finances. That defeats the goal. So you need to make strategic decisions on the end goal, right? On the vision that you have in mind. I would say, if I can just ramble a few different things on some practical things that come to mind, I would say learning how to outsource is a great skill to have, because once you learn that you do not have to be doing all of the work. Let me say that again. Once you learn that you do not have to be doing all of the work, that just changes your mindset and approach to how you run your freelancing business. Because you can outsource. You can outsource tasks. You can outsource web design. You can outsource frameworks. You can outsource getting clients. You can outsource certain. For example, I'll use a quick example that I've been doing recently. So for this email list, right? I need to get some information for certain leads that I send automated emails and automated follow-ups and all of that to this niche. And I'm not going to be sitting there doing it one by one. So I pay someone else to do it. I'm not going to be wasting my time to complete this Excel sheet so that I can upload. And when design work, I pay someone else to do it. Articles and SEO, I pay someone else to do that. Web design stuff, thankfully now, we've got people to do that, and also outsource some stuff. I'm involved very little when it comes to web design work right now, right? So outsourcing is, I would say, is a crucial element if you would like to grow your freelancing business and take advantage of your time. Then it comes to things like, yes, time management and project management and all of that type of stuff. But I would say pricing your services is key. Learning the psychology of how clients think, learning the psychology of how to sell a website, to sell the value of a website and that potential outcome of a website, not the hours of your time and the tools that you're using, is extremely crucial, because then what you're doing is you're separating time from what you're getting paid. So it's time and value, and that's amazing, because if you really think of it, right, let's think of it this way. Like, what is the difference between a $2,000 website and a $3,000 website, or $2,000 website and a $5,000 website, or $3,000 website? Play with the numbers, whatever, but the principle applies here. The answer in my mind is how you sell it to the client. Now, depending on who you ask, you might have some people who say, no, Kyle, you're wrong. That's fine. You have your opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. The bottom line is, it is not that. I'm sorry to say. It's not about how much features you have. It's not about how long it takes you. It's not about how much the plugins cost you and all this other stuff. It's about if you can sell the value of what this website is going to potentially return to the client, the tools you use and the plugins you use and how long it takes you is completely irrelevant. So pricing is very, very important. And then the other one is, I would say a final one is actually getting clients. I've seen that too many, even I mean, I've even got a family member who's into freelancing, and I've seen how they run their business after all these years, still a one-man show. And some months he does well, some months he does bad, but in average, I mean, general sense, he does quite average. And I think the reason to that is because once he gets a client and once he's at capacity, he does not continue to look for new clients. He's just happy as is. And then by the time the client leaves him, he has to stress now to look for another client to pay his bills. And I think that's an important takeaway here, because once you've got clients and once you're at capacity, that does not mean you should stop. That means you should continue to strive to get new clients. Once you get new clients, then you hire someone else, then you outsource tasks. That's how you grow. That's how you scale, you know. And in short, getting clients is a very important topic, whether you are small, starting out, or I mean, you can also look at it this way. If you don't have clients, you're essentially running an NGO or a non-profit organization, right? It's a hobby. You need clients to have a successful freelancing business. So how to get clients is an important element of freelancing, I would say.
But these are all great points. So to summarize, or to make sure I understand correctly, you need to know how to sell yourself so you can get clients. You shouldn't get complacent, or however you say in English. So for example, if you have one client, perhaps you should work on getting a few more maybe, so you are not left without any client in case that client goes away. And also project management skills and knowing or learning how to prioritize tasks and how to outsource them. These are like great tips and skills to have even outside freelancing. So until now, we made freelancing look good and we only talk about the good sides and all that. So now I'm curious to see what are some or the biggest downsides of freelancing.
Sure. Great question. Wow. Wow. I don't you obviously came prepared with great questions. I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, so in the broader sense, it's like the pros and cons of freelancing. And if I can sort of summarize briefly the pros, it is freedom. You know, in one word, it's freedom. So you, in my mind, as an employee, a full-time job, you will struggle with having freedom. You have to ask for permission to go on vacation. You have to ask for approval to do this, and all of these other things. However, I'm not saying a job is wrong. Please don't get me wrong. I had a job. It was a great starting point for me. It provides security and all of those other benefits and so on and so on. Now, in saying that, let's move on to the negatives of, or let's say the cons, let's say, or the struggles of freelancing and the differences. I would say there are none. No, I'm just joking. No, I'm joking. So, I mean, look, the bottom line is if you do freelancing wrong, and even if you do it well, there's potential for you to fail. That's a reality. You know, it's one of those things. You can have a great month, you can have great savings. All of a sudden, you might not get clients for a few months. Then what? You know, you have to acknowledge that. That's a risk you have to take. There's risk and reward. You can't have just the reward, right? So you have to accept that. Then when it comes to other things like practical things such as, you know, medical insurance, you know, all of that, some jobs offer those benefits, which is great. When it comes to job security, yes, I don't really like the argument to say that a job is more secure than freelancing, but I mean, let's just go with it for the sake of it now. So let's say you've got a job and you're working at full time. Yes, there's security in that job. You probably get almost guaranteed, as long as the company doesn't fail or you get fired, that you're going to get your salary the next month. With freelancing is sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, your income might go up and down. So you might have to take a smaller salary there or cut there, and that can sort of affect you quite a lot. I've also seen cases though that of freelancers who do very well and make some great income, but they do not know how to manage their income. So and this principle holds true to actually people in various different industries. I mean, we all know people who earn great incomes, massive houses, fancy cars, and all of a sudden they're massive in debt and they lose everything. And it's funny. I was telling a friend this other day. I said, you need to manage your finances. You should not let your finances manage you. You know, so it's very important for you as a freelancer to be wise about your your expenses and all of that. When you have a good month, you need to put money aside for emergency fund, for growth, for marketing, for miscellaneous expenses, for tax, for all of that stuff. It's almost like, I wouldn't say common sense, but it's financial literacy, which can affect you if you don't do it well, right? Then what are some other negatives of it? I think we have to compare it to getting a job, right? And again, it boils down to, like, in my mind, like, if I look at the pros and cons, freelancing is not for everyone. Freelancing is not for everyone. But I would recommend that people at least give it an honest attempt and do it properly for a year using proper strategies, not just saying, oh, I tried to reach out to 5 clients, or I worked with 1 client and it was terrible. Freelancing doesn't work, for me, and whatever. Give me a break, give me a break. I mean, you didn't do it properly. At least do it properly and then give your opinion. Perfectly fine. If you're still not happy, no problem. So that sort of boils down to the core of the pros and cons, right? Like, people need to try it and give it an honest attempt. If they enjoy it, perfect, continue. If they can do it on the side, great. It's a good supplementary income for a holiday or a child or various other expenses that will help you get by each month, But in my mind, the pros far exceed the cons. The rewards far exceed the risks if it's managed properly.
Sorry, I had my mic on mute. I love that you highlighted the cons of freelancing as well, because I don't want to create a false impression that one way is the best way. So it's really good for people to see the benefits and the downsides of freelancing and everything else. So before we move on, what's one short piece of advice you have for people that want to become freelancer? Only one tip, the one you think is the most important.
Wow, now we're talking. Only one. Okay. I should have prepared for this question. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were going to ask it, but I like it.
Don't worry, there is no right or wrong answer or anything. just whatever.
Okay, put it this way, right? I would say the biggest struggle that I find in people who I talk to, who I help, who coaching and various other things, most often, you would not believe it, the people are great coders. They know the skills incredibly well. They can create websites, they know React, they know all of this stuff. They are solid. They know marketing too, for that matter. But mentally, they are not prepared to fail. They are not prepared to learn on the job. They are too perfectionist, right? Every client they try and reach out to, they have to close the client. If it's not working, they get completely despondent, or opportunities come their way. Like, wow, a client I can use various different examples, but in short, like, opportunities come your way, and because you don't know the subject too well, you would say, no, I'm sorry, I do not know it. And then you sort of become despondent, you in your mind, you are not willing to accept failure, you are not willing to accept rejection and all of that. So my takeaway, if I can sum it up into one key advice, is an exceptional trait, an exceptional skill to have in life, for that matter, but let's just call it to freelancing, is to learn on the job and to take calculated risks and to not be scared of taking of failure, essentially, and to not be scared of rejection, in that regard, because people will say no. You need to accept that mentally, right? But it's how you deal with that. Are you going to become despondent and sort of give up and say, and cry and feel sad and sorry for yourself and all that, or are you going to actually figure out a solution, right? And say, I can do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to push through, because there was a time in my freelancing life at the beginning that I had to do that. I came across that crossroad and almost stopped. I'm glad I did not stop, you know. And you need to persevere. You need to go through with the mindset. Doesn't matter how bad you are at the beginning. Persevere, push through, be willing to fail, be willing to take calculated risks. And before you know it, you'll surprise yourself, you'll get better, you'll adapt, you'll learn on the job, and ultimately you'll become a better freelancer in the coming months and years ahead. So as a takeaway, I'll probably leave on that sort of one piece of advice, if I can say that.
This is great because it's like you spoke directly to me, because I take rejection too personally, and it makes me feel give up at times. So this is great. Okay, I drilled you with freelancing questions. I hope you don't mind. So now I want to ask you about content. Now, from what I've seen, most of your content is written. I didn't see if you have a YouTube channel or something like that, but I've seen your articles. And with that being said, I would like to ask you if you believe that blogs and written content in general are still relevant today. Because as you've seen, there is a lot of video content, and it's still on the rise. Many people are starting their YouTube channels and so on. Do you think blogs and written content is still relevant today?
Okay, I'm going to answer that, but I also want you to answer the same question as well, because I think I know the answer you're going to give. So my answer is definitely. I would highly recommend it, and for various reasons. Number one, a blog article it helps you articulate your thoughts better. So it actually helps you know the subject matter better, so that when you talk about it to others, or when you try and help others, or when you try and talk to clients and all that, you've already got some ideas in your mind, some examples, some case studies. You've already formulated the topic and the understanding of the subject matter in a way that's understandable to you, so that you can relay it to wherever, right? So it helps you, number one. Number two, videos are good, and I do recommend it, but I don't think it needs to be either or. I think it could be both, right? I recommend videos. There's something I'm trying to do a lot more of now, to get out of my comfort zone and actually do videos, because I do prefer writing. It's just a bit easier for me. Yeah. So on the article side, like two other reasons. It helps others, right? Some people like reading articles, some people don't. Some people like watching videos, some people prefer podcasts, all of that. I would recommend doing all of them, right? So that you at least have it, because there are people who prefer various different means of content, right? So now don't just say no to them just because you're good at videos. Push yourself, challenge yourself, and do it. So I recommend blogs are extremely important. The other one is SEO, ranking on Google. So if you see, for example, on certain subject matters that I'm interested in, that I want to talk about on and help others on, like for example, how to charge for a website, how to get clients as a freelance developer. If you type in on Google those types of keywords, I should be ranking quite high up in Google for that. So essentially, I get free readers, right? Because of the SEO that's good. So it gives good leads to my website, and it helps him to show like, whoa. And I'm so grateful. I mean, I've had some incredibly great feedback on that. And how? Because they found it on Google because of SEO. And this sort of ties into writing a portfolio website and agency website. So for example, let me use an example, right? So I have two agencies, two niched agencies, as well as one generalist agency. And it's amazing. I get leads on a regular basis from both of them on the niche agency ones. Why? Because people will type in, for example, I'm going to use this as an example, dentist marketing agency, or dentist marketing tips, or dentist website tips, and those types of searches. And now I've got an article ranking for that niche, and they found that article, they read it, there's a call to action, and they contact and they fill out the lead, and that's a qualified lead that you contact as a client. So it helps you land more clients ultimately. And it helps, the other one is it helps others perceive you as an expert in your chosen industry. So you might get, I mean, for example, like you, Catalin, I mean, you got some great opportunities and some great, things that came your way yes, social media is a great influence, but your blog as well, no doubt, and people can see that that you're an authority in your great articles that you write on various different topics. And, I mean, that principle applies to everyone, whether it's helping others or whether it's getting clients. So I rambled on there quite a bit. So that's my answer. Tell me yours.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And in my case, I'm gonna be short. I just want to give an example. For example, when you search for something, where is the first place you go? It's usually Google. So I don't think written content and blogs will go anywhere in the future. It's gonna be as relevant as ever. Some people prefer reading articles, some people prefer watching videos and consuming video content. So there is a place for both, and this is my short answer and the most important point, in my opinion. I don't think written content and blogs will go anywhere, and I also agree with the benefits you stated, like you help yourself cement your knowledge and understand things better. When you teach others, you help others as well, and you might even get opportunities coming your way. So obviously, from my point of view, blogging and written content is gonna be as relevant as ever. So with that being said, would you advise people to start blogging, yes or no?
Yes.
And that takes us to the next question. What are your pieces of advice for people to start blogging? I've seen that you post on all platforms, you have your blog, you write on Free Code Camp. So
Good question. So
yeah,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, it was, I just wanted to repeat the question. So what are your pieces of advice?
Okay, good question. I think it depends on let's maybe lay the foundation here, right? And let's sort of think of it like this. What is your goal of writing a blog? Is it in your personal capacity just to like share random thoughts? Is it to help others? Is it to get clients? Because that will change your strategic approach to how you're going to market, where you're going to post it, the things you're going to say, and things like that. But in short, from a practical sense of like, once you sort of figure that out, I would say when it comes to the writing side, what has helped for me, right, especially writing like longer articles, like 3,000, 5,000 words plus, is you actually need to focus, right? I mean, it's very easy to like say, oh, I'm gonna write an article, and sort of sit the whole day in between like random stuff, like social media, YouTube videos, and all this other stuff, and then you sort of write like one line, two lines, and sort of in between there. And for me, that doesn't work. What I recommend is to actually sit down just for about an hour, but to sit down a focused time and to start it off, not to say, okay, I'm going to write the whole article. That's almost impossible in 1 hour. It can be done. I've done it before, but it depends on the topic, how naturally it flows and what you need to research and all that. But what I found works for me though is you actually do an outline, right? And you just sort of write on what you know about. So you would maybe write like an intro, some supporting text, some headlines that you have in mind, and then a conclusion. So to break it up based on like the overview sort of picture. And then as you just sort of look at new things on a paper or on Google Docs or Word or whatever, you sort of just write some random thoughts that just come to mind, and don't push yourself. Just let it flow naturally. Write 1 or 2 lines. You don't have to write a full paragraph. Let it almost be like a rough draft, and then come back to it maybe the next day or later in the day or next week or whatever. If you're not, if there's no deadlines or anything like that, and then start filling in some more detail. Write some paragraphs on those topics, on those headlines and everything. Then I would also recommend that the next phase to that is to actually add supporting documents, or not supporting documents, but supporting websites or blog articles that actually either support your case or go against it, because it's also quite nice to see an opposing view. I've done that, for example, when I talk about value-based pricing, because I do not, let me say this in a nice way, I do not agree with hourly pricing. So I would link it to like another guy's article and say like, this is his case. It's a good case, but I don't agree with it, right? So other people can see the other, another opinion, and they can either agree or disagree. And then add some pictures where and if relevant, And then once you're done, it's time to market it, to get the word out. Post it on social media, post it on different publications. And depending on if it's very important, you can create certain marketing campaigns around it, and try and work on an SEO to try and improve it. And boom, done. That's pretty much my overview and my sort of approach and angle to articles. Yeah, what's yours?
So I learned something new from it. I've never considered adding opposing views to my articles. As many people do, I try to find articles that support my view, not that goes against it. But this is a this is a very good view, and I'll try to implement this in my writing. Yeah, I fully agree with you, and I would also like to add that people shouldn't force themselves to write. Try to build a habit. For example, don't go to your computer and have a goal of writing 5,000 words. Instead, try writing every day 50, 100, maximum 200 words per day. Adjust based on your time and goals. And after you get into the rhythm and after you form a habit, it's much easier. That's all about from me. Yes, so now before we move on, finally, yay or nay for blogging?
Yes.
Do you recommend it or not? Okay. So
Definitely.
I don't want to take too much of your time, so I'll have 2-3 questions and then we'll call it a day. I think online presence and freelancing goes hand in hand. Maybe I'm wrong, so that's why I'm asking you. So taking your online presence as an example, were you present on social media from the beginnings, or did you start freelancing with this in mind, acquiring clients online and from social media? With that being said, is it a must for freelancing?
Okay, good question. How can I say it? Let me answer it this way. Like, is it a requirement? No. Is it beneficial? I believe yes. So a lot of people can reach out to you, as a freelancer via, social media. I mean, Twitter is a great example of that. I don't even have to go any further. And then also, if you have Instagram, Facebook, it's a good way to get more leads. YouTube as well. But from my side, at the beginning, I didn't really focus on that to get clients in the short term. I think the best way is, in my mind, to approach social media from an organic viewpoint without running ads, is that it takes long term. It might take 6 months to up to a year or 2 years to actually start getting some decent leads from your social media channels, excluding if you have to run ads. So my short answer in conclusion is, I do find that social media is extremely beneficial. I would encourage people to have it both in their personal capacity as well as their business capacity, and to really to actually take it seriously, because there's a lot of opportunity there. A lot of people hang out on social media, and you ideally want to be where they are, and it's a great place to be to share your ideas and to market your website. So that's pretty much my 2 cents on that.
Super interesting. Does your online presence helps a lot, like your personal account, not a business account, not ads, not anything, like the Kyle sharing stuff online? Do you get leads or more opportunities from that?
Okay, good question. The short answer is yes. I do get leads and opportunities, but it's not for my agency. So I think I've only gotten maybe 2 or 3 clients from this over the years, and thankfully, they've been like good high paying clients, which I'm grateful for. But in the general sense, I've gotten clients and leads, in other ways. But in my personal capacity, the short answer is definitely the opportunities definitely come my way, which I'm grateful for, and it's more from a study of development sort of approach when it comes to freelancing. And also, a lot of people get to know about me ultimately, and what I teach, what I help with, and they come to find my blog that way. They come to ultimately also find my digital products. So definitely, I do find it highly beneficial, and recommend actually everyone to have a personal social media account.
Nice, great to hear that. So, as you heard, people, start being more active and grow your social media accounts. And the last question, is it worth it considering the time you spend on it and the return on investment?
Yes. So I do think, though, that people do spend an unhealthy amount of time on social media, which I find concerning, because I think that it can have an effect on your personal relationships and your mental health. And it's very interesting. If you look at certain studies, it will actually show that high social media use actually leads to extreme mental depression and various other negative effects of emotions and psychology. So I think I'm saying that people should be responsible, in using social media. I do not think that people should be using social media hours every single day. Yes, I mean, even if you're a streamer and all of that stuff, I think there's a balance, right? I wouldn't want to be a streamer. That doesn't appeal to me. But I mean, in the general sense, I think that people should spend, maybe an hour, maybe maximum two, if it's like their job or something, on social media. And in short, just try and spend as little time as possible. I mean, you can very easily spend half the day or the full day on social media, and I just do not think that's healthy for anyone in the long term. That's pretty much my answer to that.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Please be careful with social media because it has lots of benefits, but it has lots of drawbacks as well. So these are all my questions, Kyle. I want to thank you a lot from the bottom of my heart for accepting it, for staying here for 1 hour while I drilled you with questions. Your answers were super helpful, insightful. Personally, I learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure people listening to this will learn a lot as well. So now I just want to ask you if you want to add something. Perhaps maybe you want to talk about your product or something.
Well, let me say, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate it, and I always enjoy chatting with you, Catalin. And I appreciate also what you're doing with Hashnode. It's quite an interesting platform,
Thank
and yeah, I really appreciate once again, the opportunity. Yeah, I think I mean, obviously, people are interested. I mean, they're more than welcome to check me out on Twitter. My name is Kyle Prinsloo. You should be able to find me that way, and also on my website, studywebdevelopment.com. That's where I share a lot of content, and there's various different links there, various different resources. So that's pretty much it. And yeah, I mean, they're more than welcome to check it out.
I'll add your social media links and everything into the comments or description anyway, so you can check it there. Thank you once again, and
Thanks, man.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much, Catalin, and thanks to everyone. Thank you.